I'd like to introduce Mr. David Frost.
Thank you very much indeed, Bert. It's a privilege to be introduced by Bert. It's even more delightful to have an introduction by him than one I had the other day at the Dorchester Hotel in London, where they didn't have anyone like Bert to introduce you. They just had a toastmaster in scarlet livery who was supposed to tap his gavel on the table and say, "Pray silence for Mr. David Frost." I don't know whether he was nervous or what, but instead he tapped his gavel on the table and said, "Pray for the silence of Mr. David Frost." He obviously knew what he was talking about, but those people are like Bert here. They rule the roost. I had one toastmaster in London who leant over to me at a dinner and said, "Would you like to speak now, Mr. Frost, or shall we let them enjoy themselves for another 10 minutes?" It's a great pleasure and surprise to be here. When I was first asked to be here tonight, I thought, why should I fly halfway around the world to say insulting things about a popular television personality who's loved by an entire nation? And then they told me who it was, and I thought, well, that's different then. I'm honoured and delighted to be here. We share many things in common. Flying, a great deal of flying we both do around the world. We've often discussed it. There are always people, like today, flying down from Sydney. There are always people on aeroplanes, and we were discussing, I remember once, about who get nervous on flights, looking a bit green on an aeroplane. I mean, some things we were saying that make us all nervous, when the stewardess serves the drinks with her parachute on or something like that. It's worrying to anybody. But on the flight today down, we had the worst possible thing. We had a pilot who was a humorist, and he knew he got a captive audience. And even though there were 4 or 5 people always looking green on the flight, he came on the intercom and made a joke. He came on the intercom and said, "Of course," he said, "some people claim they're afraid of flying. But that's nonsense. It's crashing they're afraid of." People turned greener and greener. Anyway, I'm delighted that my airline schedules allowed me to be here today to honour Don. I'm delighted. I've been learning about Don tonight, as you have probably, and in researching on my way here, I'm glad you mentioned his gallant army career, because I was talking to one person today who said it's not generally known, but Don got the VC in Germany. At least I think that's what he said. Something like that, anyway. And it was a great career. He was the only man in the entire American army in Korea to have a tank with 4 gears. 3 of them reverse, and 1 of them forward in case the enemy attacked from behind. I'm glad you mentioned you went on to be a sports editor. I only read that today, in the forces, didn't you? Went on to be a sports editor, and has a great many things to his credit. It was in the States, for instance, that at the Detroit Coliseum, that Don Lane pole vaulted a record height of 19 feet 8 inches. Unfortunately, the roof of the Detroit Coliseum is only 16 feet 4 inches high. So that in one jump, Don broke both the indoor and outdoor record. And in fact, he also once ran the 100 meters in 3.2 seconds and explained it by saying that he took a shortcut. But he said that his best time was at a motel in Surfers Paradise, which we can all understand. But how do we sum up Don Lane? Well, first of all, he's generous. It was Don Lane who, upon hearing of the world's first test tube baby, selflessly offered himself as a sperm donor. Prepared to do home deliveries. Anyway, we've all come here to honour Don Lane, a great man. None of us are perfect. In fact, I was talking to someone who knew Don as a child who said that, as a child, Don was half good and half bad. He used to help old ladies halfway across busy streets. Don Lane, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here.